So the segment that I'm going to do this week is on the new frugalism. That even though we're coming out of the recession, I see it taking hold in a way that I hadn't in past, post-recession times. I mean, there's definitely a luxury factor at play also, but I'm finding so many people are interested in talking to me about this sort of frugal lifestyle that I have, and how I managed to do it, and how I managed to have actually a wonderful life while I'm in that kind of mode. So a little bit on today's segment is going to serve really to give you a little background on my credentials in terms of even being able to talk to you about frugalism. And then I'm going to do 5 segments, which are my 5 top tips on how to lead an absolutely delicious frugal lifestyle. So in terms of my background, very impoverished parents. We moved from Australia we moved from Germany to Australia. My parents were both factory workers. My dad built his own house, including the furniture, so you can imagine how wonky that was, because he was not a carpenter. Never any debt. My parents, throughout their whole lifetime, never had a credit card. When I was a teenager and I finally got a car, and I paid that off in like 3 months, and it actually had I think a 2-year loan on it. So so this is something that really is very much in my DNA. When I left Australia and I came to the States, I married a lawyer, and for a few years I really was sort of derailed from my frugal ways. My husband really loved to spoil me and seemed to really get a lot out of the fact that I would be going on these wild spending sprees, and indeed I did do that. And then when it came to actually getting a divorce, what I thought was sort of interesting was that one of my key considerations was whether or not I would be able to afford to buy cheese at Dean & DeLuca if I was divorced and didn't have that kind of money. And ultimately, of course, I decided I could forego the cheese. So anyway, also during this whole period of time, I was always under the impression that only men really could look after money, that women couldn't. And when I got divorced, there was a certain, it was a small amount of money, it was like maybe $50,000, something that was invested for me, and there was a man who was running that account, and it was like sort of part of my ex-husband's family's account. And I would occasionally watch that amount, and it was always going down, and I'd call him up and I'd say, do you think we should sell this? It seems to be, it's like half of what it was. And he'd always tell me, no, stay in it and actually invest more. So I don't think I did that, but this amount of money that I had totally disappeared. Wisp of smoke, none there. So that sort of gave me my first sense that maybe men didn't always know everything there was to know about money. So then another really breakthrough moment for me, and probably the breakthrough moment, and I have to always thank my friend Sue W. for this. We were having dinner one night, and for some reason the conversation did turn to money, and she allowed how she had assets of maybe close to $1 million, with her apartment and so forth. And I was flabbergasted. First of all, that it just seemed like such an amazing amount of money. And secondly, I realized that I had no idea what my assets were, none. So that after that dinner, I rushed home, I dug through all of my financial records, I realized what I had and what I didn't have, and I started from that very next day, studying everything there was to study about mutual funds, about investing. After maybe 3 months, I waded into the market, and I was in the market maybe for like 3 or 4 years, I think, and actually did quite well. And then, and I think this must have been in the early 90s, in one of those recessions, the market went down by 500 points, like on one day. I freaked out. The next day, it went right back up, and that day I called up every one of these people that I was invested with, mutual funds, and I got out. So I had all this money, and I invested it in CDs, which at that point in time were like, you know, the rate was like over 7%, and I did like 5 years, 10 years. Everyone thought I was absolutely ridiculous to do this. However, that market went down, I mean, for like the next year or so. I don't really remember all the details, but I know it went down. And at the end of that time, people were like, man, it wasn't so stupid to get out. Anyway, so after that, I'd also bought an apartment, which I had a 30-year mortgage. And again, contrary to what the, you know, sort of the advice of the financial community and so forth is, I paid off that mortgage in 10 years, and I just love that. Every time I got a bonus, I would pay down the principal. So, you know how you get like your monthly payment, mortgage payment was like, say, you know, $2,000, but then at the end I was paying like $200. It was fabulous. And then I bought, I lived in that apartment for a long time, I still have that, and then I had an opportunity to buy another apartment, and I actually was able to buy that without a mortgage, and that was fantastic. So, the reason why I think I have some, you know, credentials to talk to you about money, even though my system is very conservative, and I think guys in particular find my methodologies way too conservative. But the reason I make, my income is definitely less than a lot of my friends and my peers. But with that said, I still own real estate, I'm debt-free, and I actually have enough money in savings that I actually don't have to work if I don't want to. So I think that kind of freedom is pretty phenomenal. And those are the tips I want to give for, hopefully somebody will see this, and I'm going to give you my 5 top tips and be like one segment per day, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, thanks.